Awesome. There we go. Let's go. We are officially live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chiropractic Compass podcast and Facebook Lives brought to you by the legendary Chiropractor online community. I'm your host, as usual, Johnny Reuter, and tonight we have the opportunity and the privilege of speaking and chatting with Dr. Jack Goss, who is a chiropractor, absolutely crushing it, straight out of school up in Michigan. I think it's Sterling Heights, is that correct?
Yep.
Sterling Heights, Michigan, graduated from Life University in March 2019, and like I said, he's fresh out and he is ready to share his wisdom and his knowledge that he gained as a student and how he's made the successful transition from student to doctor. So, Doc, without further ado, I want to share this video all over Facebook, and I want you to have the opportunity to share a little bit more of how you got into chiropractic and what led you to where you're at today.
All right. Well, yeah, so, I mean, first of all, Johnny brings on all sorts of experts on here. I don't consider myself an expert with anything, really. I just got through school, and I'm here to share kind of the journey. You've had some badasses on your show. I mean, Chris Zano.
Yep.
We had Kim Carpenter, Brad Glowacki in person.
Yep.
I mean, that was impressive. Barbara Eaton a few times. So, I mean, I don't consider myself anywhere in that caliber, but I'm here because I went through school and I'm in the process. I graduated 2 months ago. I just got licensed a month ago. That was a process. Something they don't teach you in school is getting licensed and everything like that. But yeah, so I'm super fresh out. Got into chiropractic pretty simply. I was born into it, adjusted minutes old. Very thankful for that, very fortunate. And I lived the chiropractic lifestyle. And, it took me a while as discovering careers going through junior high and high school and being adjusted regularly for preparation for football games and math exams and everything like that. That's not your normal kid growing up, but it was tough. I definitely took a lot of crap from teachers and other students about how I grew up and my lifestyle. And I really thought, I was like, wow, chiropractic is not really being accepted, and I actually wanted to look for something else. And I considered something else in the medical profession that was more accepted. And it wasn't until my senior year of high school where my AP biology teacher actually found out I wasn't vaccinated and threatened to kick me out of school, said I wasn't going to be able to graduate in May or whenever it was, June. And he said, your spot in that class, which was pretty competitive, was better deserved by someone else going into the real medical profession. So I was like, wow. Whoa, so I took a stab. And I was like, this is how people think. And with an allopathic mind, I was like, gosh, I thought, chiropractic had its place in helping people. And I said, screw that. I'm not going to be a part of that. It took me, full circle to come around to the chiropractic lifestyle and see how fortunate I was to grow up in it, and fell back into Life Leadership Weekend. My dad graduating from Sherman, we're sitting in the seats day one. Our flight actually got delayed, and I missed like half the weekend, showed up, jumped into the Spanish-speaking tour. I was like, I hate this place. I can't understand anyone or anything going on. And after I heard Dr. Riekman talk a few times and got the feel of the campus, I looked over to my dad and said, when are we going to go visit Sherman? He goes, you're not. You're going here. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's signed up. And I ditched all my plans to go to school in Michigan for undergrad and started at Life University in the biology program. I dual enrolled. I finished undergrad in 7 quarters or co-finished and started the DC program July of 15 and graduated last quarter.
Awesome, dude. Awesome.
It's been awesome. The transition has been amazing, and we'll get to talking about that. But, yeah, props to you for having me on. I'm honored. I, by all means, am not an expert, and most people are probably like, why do we care about this kid just graduating on your podcast? But, maybe we'll pick up some stuff and just have a good discussion and go from there.
Absolutely.
Oh, speaking of Chris Zano, too, funny story. We had a patient come in today, and I'm looking, prepping to get into the room. And I'm like, okay. Her chief complaint is ulcerative colitis. I'm like, that's a weird chief complaint. So I knock on the door, I go in. So I'm like, how did you hear about us? Blah blah blah. She goes, what did you think? Your chief complaint's ulcerative colitis. What's been going on with that? Like, how did you fall into our office?
Yeah.
Because I actually was looking for everything. I ran out of answers. I took medicine. She's a farm tech. And she goes, nothing's working for me. I came across on YouTube Chris Zano's, one of his videos.
Okay.
It's like, no way.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome. And she's like, he was telling the world that it worked for him and I hope it works for me. And I was like, perfect.
That's
Gave her the chiropractic
awesome.
story, nervous system, brain, body connection, the spine, it all. She was loving it. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, we don't cure ulcerative colitis, but we optimize the nervous system and let's see what happens. So funny story about that. That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Exactly. And you never know how far reaching something, it could touch millions and millions of lives. So that's pretty awesome, Doc. So Dr. Jack is a chiropractor in Michigan. Just want to recap his intro here. He graduated last quarter, right?
Yeah,
last quarter from Life University. And you know what? He says he's not an expert at anything, but before we were on live camera, I was telling him, you know what, just share your experience so far, because I think that's what's most important to people, especially chiropractic students who are out there grinding away. I was telling him I got part 2, part 3 PT, part 4 in the next 4 months here, and so we're grinding away, and just hearing little golden nuggets here and there, you pick up on things, you leave what you don't want. But it could change the trajectory of your chiropractic career, or, it could change your mindset about something or a certain philosophy or stigma that you had previously. It could totally transform that. So just listen in, catch up with him, and he'll give out contact information at the end if you have any questions or comments or concerns or want to just get in touch with him because he's a badass, right? I mean, that's pretty much it. Dr. Jack and I, before we jump into topics, we actually met officially in person. I mean, we had gone to school together, so we saw each other on campus. But we met actually at CalJam, which was hilarious. So, Doc, talk to us a little bit about CalJam, the energy of CalJam, what that's all about, and what that event means to chiropractic and the health of humanity.
Yeah, CalJam, what an event. That was my second time going. I went 2 years ago for it was the 70s theme.
Okay.
And they're playing 70s music, and that's right up my alley. I mean, I'm a big rock and roll guy. I love, grunge music and everything like that. So, a chiropractic seminar with intermissions of rock music, sign me up, say no more. And they talk about real topics in a arena of high caliber people. It was, incredible. And, I'll continue to keep going. I missed last year and I came back this year. So funny story is when I first went to CalJam, not knowing really what was going on, show up to the after party and everybody is dressed up in 70s gear. I mean, wearing wigs and the whole get up. And I'm dressed like a bum and I'm like, dang, I really missed out. So come around this time, I know what to prepare for.
Oh, absolutely.
So this year's theme was punk rock. And I'm like, okay, people are dressing up. And I was hanging out with a bunch of Life West people. And my friend I met out there, Jamie Bueller, was setting us up, putting eyeliner on our eyes. And we had makeup going. I had bracelets and spikes and everything. And when we looked, so I came up to you on the dance floor and I was like, dude, get me on your show. And I forgot that I looked like a punk rocker. I had all the makeup on and everything. So looking back on it, I'm like, that's pretty funny. I just invited myself onto his show dressed like a punk and, with no experience or anything to give. So
hey, it didn't matter. I put you in my phone. I was like, I got to pencil him in, and that's exactly what we did. And look at that. We're here, not even a couple months later, and we're talking, we're chatting. So, Doc, let's bullet. I'm going to bullet point the topics that we're going to discuss tonight, just to set the stage and the groundwork for what kind of content and value we're going to drop later through this episode. So, number one, we're going to talk about transitioning from student to doctor. That's the theme of this show in essence, and helping students and doctors better connect, but also helping students ease their mind. Like, it is okay on the other side. You look at Dr. Jack and you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to survive. You're like, it's going to be okay. And then number 2 is choosing a peak office. So Life University specific, that is huge, huge, huge for chiropractic students. And those in my quarter, actually 11th quarter, we're going into that peak orientation class next quarter. And you got to find a peak doctor, and you got to find one where you're not sweeping the floors and cleaning the windows. You got to be taking your films, getting your adjustments, doing your physicals. You got to be doing all of that stuff. So he's going to talk to us a little bit about that, what he learned at his peak experience as well, and then things he's glad he did as a student to prep him as a doctor, as well as the contrary of what he wish he would have done as a student to better prepare him as a doctor. So, Doc, without, going too far into those topics, let's just start number 1, transitioning from student to doctor. What was your transition like, and how would you change or tweak some things that maybe you've had some hiccups here and there?
Yeah. Transitioning from student to doctor, it's an awkward period, really. I mean, it's all a bunch of hype. You're getting your last numbers in peak. You took your last exams, taking boards, maybe you finished or not. And then, you walk across the stage. I had a great time. I had a great support system. I had my buddies who, are not chiropractors from back home that I grew up with. They flew down and supported me walk across the stage.
Awesome.
And then all of a sudden it was like time to grind. And, if I could describe the whole experience in 3 words, I would say it was relieving, fulfilling, and kind of depressing, honestly. So I'm gonna tell it straightforward. Yes, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but it came with like a lot of like down moments, and just with like changes in relationship, not being able to see your friends and colleagues like you used to. I miss going to class, quite honestly. It was just being on a schedule that like with teachers that were holding you accountable and stuff. That was a cool feeling. So that's kind of you're on your own here, and moving was honestly pretty depressing, just kind of shifting and the physical movement and packing everything up. That was like, wow. But it came with great encouragement. It came with a light at the end of the tunnel, a lot to look forward to. You felt so relieved to be actually done with all the stress. Like, there is stress coming with practicing and being doctors. There's pressure and stuff, but not like school. It's different. And I think it was constant as a student. You're like one thing after another, and then 1 week break or a 3 week break or whatever it is, and then you're back at it. That was always really tough to just keep going in this. I feel like a laundromat, right? You're just tumbling through school, and all of a sudden you're spit out with everything and all this knowledge, and but it becomes real. I mean, I had to write a radiology report that was requested by a medical doctor, and you're like, dang, this has got to look good. This is my reputation's on the line. So you got to take it all in as you're a student and be ready to spit it all out when you're a doc. But relieving for sure. I mean, weight lifted off the shoulders, but fulfilling as well too, because nothing makes me more accomplished or feel more accomplished than graduating and getting through that program, which we know is not easy to do. Yeah. So, definitely super awesome. It's worth it. I mean, I've adjusted kids before, but today I actually adjusted my first like family as a group. I mean, a mother brought in 4 kids, and I'm just like one after another of these kids I'm like, all right, let's like, it's cool. And actually my first thank you note right here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So while I was adjusting, this patient's, 3 older siblings, she was writing me a little thank you note. So that's what she got stickers and rainbows on it. So it's cool, man. It's like little moments like that really fill you up and go, I'm in it for the right reasons. Absolutely. And I don't regret it one bit. This chiropractic profession has done so much for me, and I can't wait to give back to it. Just like the fathers before us going to jail for chiropractic. What other profession has that? Like that's what lightens me up. And that's my favorite thing about Life University campus is the bell tower. And when I tell people that like people went to jail fighting for chiropractic, it blows people's minds. So just being willing to serve and get out here, it's fun, and every single day is fun. Like you said, I'm practicing with my sister, so we bounce off each other, and that's an awesome experience too. So, we're a great team, and you just got to have that good support system, and practice is fun. I look forward to going to work every single time, man. It's a good feeling. So keep on it. Go through it. The transition, it's tough. It has its ups and downs, but it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you heard it here first, guys. Relief, fulfillment, and depressing, all encompassed in one walk across the stage. You know, like, and then they hand you the empty diploma case. That starts the depression right there. It's like, oh crap.
Nothing to really show for it until it gets mailed to you 3 weeks later, and then you got to get licensed and everything. And, I actually forgot to submit all my board scores from NBC, to my state. So I'm sitting here waiting for my license, and to figure I didn't even send in my board scores. You have to do that yourself too. So I learned that the hard way. I'm texting my buddies like, do we have to send in our own board scores? They're like, yeah, as soon as you pass part 4 or whatever your last board is, send that into your state that you want, because it takes some time.
Yeah, that's funny. But it's just great to hear, that those fresh challenges that, these, I interview docs who are 40 years, 20 years out of school, and they're like, I asked Dr. Brad Glowacki, I was like, put yourself back in the student's shoes. He's like, absolutely not. He's like, I don't want to. But like they have, people have trouble going back to those moments, which I think is really cool that we can bring you on and have you share, like, you are living proof of the transition right now. And I think that's so cool. So Pete, I want to talk about this before we jump into our next topic, because you said something really cool. The prison or the jail cell that chiropractors, the holding cell that chiropractors were held in when they went to jail for practicing chiropractic and without a license, because they knew that it was the right thing to do, and they knew that the health of these individuals mattered and was in their hands. Do you think that society is ready for a change? I mean, like, when we're talking big picture, we always talk about that tipping point. Let's move away from that. Like, as a consciousness, as society, do you think we're ready for this change of conservative healthcare?
I think we are. I'm experiencing it only being 2 months out.
Yeah.
Patients coming, like I said today, the patient with UC coming in just looking for an answer. I think there are people out there that are just sick of the traditional methods of taking care of symptoms, and they want to overall promote their health.
Yeah.
My buddy Mike Mueller, not a chiropractor, he was in his CrossFit gym, and he injured himself or something, and these guys were like, oh, he just put some ice on it. And he's sitting here thinking, I'm going to apply ice to a joint or whatever his injured area was, I can't remember, that was swelling. He's thinking to himself, my body is sending blood and nutrients and oxygen to my damaged thing, and why would I want to stop that? And to me personally, I think cryotherapy is kind of reversing the body's natural ability to promote healing, right? Acute swelling is a good thing.
Yeah.
Acute inflammation is good. So, him not being a chiropractor is aware of the vitalistic method, and he saw that. So I think, to answer your question, yes, I think people are ready. People are starting to grasp it. If medicine keeps doing what they're doing, treating symptoms from the outside in, people are going to eventually get sick of it.
Yeah.
And they need an answer, right? So
Absolutely.
I think we have an opportunity to jump on that and offer a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great answer. And, like I said, I don't ever mean to put people on the spot, but when things come up like that, I just love to circle back to it, because I think it's so important to talk about. And I think that your opinion matters just as much as mine, just as much as the next person's. So, but I also wrote this note down when you were talking about, being a student in a laundromat. I love that. That was so funny. But we're trained to stress, right? We're trained to stress. Like, that is, we wake up. You said you woke up and you were kind of like relieved but depressed because you didn't have structure anymore. That you'd have to create your next structure, right? Like, where's that next foundation going to start? How am I going to build from there? And yeah, we're constantly rigorously trained to just like wake up, okay, what's next, what test, what quiz, what homework, what paper, like all this stuff. And even undergrad, I mean, you name it, undergrad, graduate, whatever degree you're doing, I mean, that's the grind. So next topic on the docket, we have successfully transitioned from student to doctor, but let's go for the Life University specific people who are peaking, who have this opportunity to do an externship. And I know different schools, Palmer, Logan, Western States, Northwestern, I know you all do different things, and Sherman also do different externships and kind of different levels of clinic. Peak is our externship. It's our last level of clinic. So, Doc, speak to us a little bit about choosing your peak office and what you learned in your peak experience.
Yeah, so when I was deciding to where to peak, I had basically 3 options, really. I had an office that was out there, out of my comfort zone, or out of my anticipation, how I wanted to practice, something different, right? Something that was more functional neurology based, that saw maybe 9 patients a day, slower paced, very specific. I had an opportunity out of state that would have been a little bit different. I would have gained some communication skills, but it wasn't exactly how I wanted to practice. And then there was an opportunity in Michigan that was insurance based, how I wanted to practice, how the practice that I'm in now is running. And I ultimately decided to go that route. And I think it's important to pick a practice that you ultimately want to see yourself in.
Yeah.
Or, and, I was in the toss up of, do I go out of my way to learn something different, or do I start getting in the groove of things? And I think when you're starting the peak, you need to transition yourself. You're kind of, not that you're done learning, but you're done figuring things out. I think you need to be ready to just move right into practice after your peak, whether you're going to, whether you may get a job offer from your peak doctor, or your preceptorship, or if you're going to start your own practice or associate in a similar practice. I think you need to think on the lines of, being similar, or in a practice that is similar to what you envision yourself in. I tossed and turned about getting into an office that did something completely different, and maybe I'll pick up some things, and I'm really glad I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I am in a practice, because, the practice I'm in now, we're pretty insurance based. We're, pretty corrective, full spine, high volume, and that's the practice. When I peaked, that's the kind of practice I jumped into as well, and I learned a lot. And I learned to take what I wanted to do after graduation, to the next level. And I picked up a lot of clues, and especially with training staff, hiring people, these are some of the things you don't really pick up on. Mm-hmm. So I think, I learned a lot in that way. And I think, we can talk about some of that stuff too. But I think you just need to you gotta take the time in school to figure out what you want to do, and be ready to go when you're peaking. I think you need to be in an office that is already set up to what you want to do, and don't use that opportunity to figure things out. Like, that should have already been done.
Yeah.
Even in outpatient clinic, I was like, I could take this technique class as an elective and maybe try it on a few patients, or I can dive in and master what I plan on doing. And I think the earlier quarters, or even before you're in the DC program, I think that first year is the time where you want to dabble in different techniques and figure out what you want to do, because you need that year or 2 left of the program in the peak to start mastering what you're doing. You want to be out ready to go with whatever you decide to do.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. I'm actually, I don't know if you know Dr. Sammy Clavel. I'll be peaking with him in Austell, Georgia, which I'm super stoked about. But, I like you said, find someone that resonates with you, and then find the way they practice too. Like, not only personally, because people can be great outside the office, and you and I could really get along, but you could practice completely different than anything I ever see my future practice looking like or my future life looking like. And I think it's really important, especially like you said, in the peak office, to really hone in on what you want to take away that you can learn, and learn what you want to leave, learn what you want to take, and then apply that immediately. No matter if you go into an associateship, independent contract, go step into an office where kind of like your situation was, but you're able to start applying these things right away, because you had, if you did 2 single peaks or whatever, you had 6 months. If you did a double peak, you had 3 months to look at this whole entire practice as your own, right? Like for a second, and be like, whoa, that's a glimpse into my future. How can I tweak things and make things better for me personally and make it unique to my style? I absolutely love what you said. I think that's great.
And you mentioned it. You said you don't want to be in a peak office where you're sweeping floors and changing trash cans, right?
Yeah.
But that's all up, that's the doctor looking at you with the comfort that he's going to put you in front of his patients or her patients.
That's a good point.
That's where I say you got to be primed and ready to go for peak. That's not a chance to kind of dabble in different styles. That should have already been done. And I think if you're still dabbling, the doc is going to see that and say, you're better off sweeping floors, changing trash cans. Instead of, if you're ready to go, you can adjust, you can communicate. Let's put you in front of patients.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind me asking, did you double peak or single peak?
I did double peak.
Okay.
So I did both my peaks in 1 quarter.
Nice. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, especially in my quarter, if you're watching this, a lot of people are deciding, do I do peak with immersion, double peak or with immersion or whatever, or 2 single peaks. And, Dr. Sammy looked at me and I said, what do you prefer, right? Like, I can make something happen with my graduation schedule. So why don't we make something happen that works for both of us? And he was like, I recommend 2 single peaks because of the fact that, you have that extra quarter, hopefully 14th quarter, where you're not taking any courses. And that way, then you can start learning. I'll open my books to you. I'll open, my files to you and start showing you some of this business, some of, the hiring skills like you were talking about with like watching a staff and knowing, what questions to ask, or, he's not going to have me sit down in front of one of his CAs and be like, you're fired. That's not a thing, but he's like, you can sit in the room with me because he thinks it's great experience. You want to really find someone who's willing to work with you on that and work with you through the process of really honing in on the reality skills. We'll call them that, versus the technique, the adjusting, the science. You know that. You should know that. And then you got to have someone to kind of put the whipping cream on top and say, you know what, you're good to go, and I'm going to kick you out my door because I don't want you here anymore.
Right. Exactly. And I guess with the peaks, the main difference is because it's the same amount of hours in the office, right? So it's just whether or not you need that time to prepare for after graduation, whether you're opening your own practice. And my buddy, Ty Stewart, he was opening his own practice, and he took, although he was ready to go, he took that extra 6 months of single peaking to really plan his practice out and get that rolling. So if you need time on your side, single peak, 2 quarters. If you're in a time crunch and, you're ready to go, double peak like I did. But you got to have things in place for that too.
Absolutely.
And I think it's all up to the person. It's case by case, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think we made a lot of there were several golden nuggets just dropped there. That's important. Any Life University student that is, in early quarters, watch this in 6 quarters, and I promise you will not regret that, because that's really important information. So, Doc, with that, do you want to add anything of like, I know you mentioned a couple experiences, but do you have any prime examples that you can relate back to your peak experience that you took with you or you left behind, and you were like, you know what, I want to really apply that. How can I twist it for myself? Do you want to talk a little bit about what you took from your peak experience?
Yeah, I think no matter what peak opportunity you go to, you're going to learn how to adjust. You're going to learn different technique. You're going to learn the doctor spin. You're going to learn business. You're going to learn all that good stuff. The biggest thing that I took away was with what my doc was doing was really communication training and personality training with his own staff.
Love it.
And I gained so much from that personally. And I mean, think about it. People want to learn about themselves. They constantly want to dive into that. So, I don't know if you're familiar with communication style training. I remember learning a little bit from Dr. Reekman as a student ambassador. He told us, and my peak office was doing the same thing. There are 4 different, and there's tons of different tests, but the one he told us was there's 4 different communication styles: driver, analyticals, amiables, and analyticals. Did I say that one twice? So there's 4 different styles, and you got to learn which one you are and quickly discover which ones your patients are, so you can talk on their level.
Yeah.
And we're starting to use that in our office too, as we have, there's 100 different quizzes out there, but I got one that I kind of designed or tweaked to be more patient-based or chiropractic-based, and I have our staff take it, and you can really tell the really strict people, they're drivers.
Yeah.
They want things done and to the point. They don't want any fluff. They thrive on efficiency, and they don't like procrastination or anything like that. And then we have these analyticals, right? They're very detail-oriented. They like all the equipment. These are the patients that love every single millimeter on an x-ray, and they love the drop tables, and they love the activator, and they love the different functions of everything, and they're all about the correctiveness, and and then you have the expressives who don't really care about what you do to them. They just want to be heard, right? They care about the front desk and how they're being treated. And they care about, we're full spine, so they care about every little pop and audible in their spine, and they're the ones where they get a little bit better and they tell the whole world that you're the best, right? So the expressives, and then you have the amiables who care nothing about themselves, and they care about every single person, and they're quieter and they're more reserved. So these 4 different types, we're learning how to talk to different patients. And I learned during a report of findings or a day 2 that you should be kind of aware of what this patient is and kind of talk on their level, right? If really quickly on their first adjustment that they're hyping up on the drop tables and they love all let me see, what are you feeling now? Do you feel that edema that you're talking about? Where's my misalignment? They're an analytical.
Yeah.
So am I going to spend more time on talking about like stages of care, or am I going to talk more about the x-rays and see every little detail? You pick out what they want to hear.
Yeah.
With these drivers that just, all they care about, can you help me? How much does it cost? When do I start? Kind of thing.
Yep.
So you're maybe not wasting your time on x-rays. You're like, here's your x-ray. You're pretty messed up. We can help you out.
Right.
When do you want to start? And they'll be like, where do I sign? So there's people out there that are like that. If you're just wasting their time, and they're probably a driver that they just want, hey, can you help me? And these expressives people, when you're talking to them on a day 2, you need to be, you gotta let them talk and let them tell the story. Oh, my chiropractor did this, this, and this, and just let them talk, and then yep, we can do that. We're gonna make everything, just exaggerate everything with them as far as hype them up real, you're gonna do so well here, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Also, and with the amiables, you maybe not want to talk at them or talk so loud. You talk a little bit, a little quieter, and really talk about feelings and talk about how great the front staff is going to treat them when they walk in, and you're going to be taken care of. So you have to, we targeted these 4 types, and we're training our staff to really target patients and identify patients. So we have at weekly meetings, we kind of talk about our patients and which ones are they. One of our CAs was like, this person is so rude. They just left after they paid or they rescheduled, and they just walked out the door without even saying goodbye. And I'm like, it's probably because they were a driver. This person has got somewhere to be. They appreciate the quick service we have. How they're not waiting. They're in and out. So not to take offense to it, because this CA was an amiable, she felt offended, but the patient was also a driver. So we're trying to teach our staff to identify these types of communication styles and apply that to practice. And I think that's important when dealing with patients.
Absolutely. That is huge. That is massive. That doctor-patient relationship too. And, we learn this as students, and teachers talk about it all the time. But that doctor-patient relationship is critical. And if you don't mind me adding, to build a massively successful practice,
Yep.
because I know that you're in a family practice, and it stayed this long. So, there's certain things that you and your sister are bringing to the table that, maybe are being looked at a little bit differently. But that is so, so important. And the fact that we tie that back to peak, or we tie that back to your preceptorship, or we tie that back to, your intern or externship, whatever school you're at, what you'd call it, a different thing. The fact that you tie that back to that moment or your ambassador experience, that's huge. That is massive, and that will change your practice for the better for years and years to come, which I think is amazing. So you say you're not an expert in anything. Baloney. Get out of here. So with that so now let's go into the next topic. We got the peak. We got the student to doctor relation, or student to doctor transition. Things you're glad you did as a student. What were you like? Yes, this was amazing that I did as a student, other than your amazing peak experience that you just talked about. But, what else set you up for that success to really dive right into practice?
Yeah, for sure. So big topics, especially at Life, is all the different clubs on campus. One thing that I'm really glad I did was I was really active in a lot of clubs, but I didn't really, and I say this, I don't think I got sucked into a club.
Yeah.
And I think that works with some people. For me, I tried to keep an open mind, and I wanted to get a taste of a little bit of everything. I had a background in chiropractic already as growing up in a full spine patient. So I definitely went to full spine club when it was on campus, and then I see network being a technique, and I'm like, oh man, this is wild stuff. So I went a few times, and then I learned a lot from adjusting ninjas, and I learned a lot from functional neurology and CBP. So what I really appreciated about my experience was I was able to go to a few clubs during a couple quarters and then kind of switch off.
Yeah.
Where I see a lot of people, they get sucked in right away early, and that's good. But I may see that as a disadvantage of maybe being closed off to other things. And I'm glad I at least got to experience a lot of things. And people may disagree with that and say you need to be an expert in a technique, get going right away. And I think that's part true. I think once you find what you're looking for, definitely hone in on it. But I was just glad that I bounced around a lot. I'm really glad that I went to Dr. Fox's Monday sessions regularly. I think you can never get enough radiology review. I went for the extra credit in Scale A, and I just kept going. One, for the Part 4 board preparation, that was like all I really needed, was just hearing Dr. Fox in the back of my head about x-rays and everything. But I showed up even when I was like done taking classes. I was there, and I stayed the whole time just taking notes still. And I think, I like x-rays. We take x-rays in our practice, and I think if you're going to take x-rays, I think you need lots of reps. And I learned a lot from him, and just dealing with patients and where to put patients at, well, based off of x-rays too. So his Monday sessions were awesome. I'm glad that I slowed down my schedule. I think it was around fifth quarter or something. I finished the whole program in 15 quarters, so quarter behind, but I'm glad that I kind of slowed my schedule down and I didn't really rush through it.
Yeah.
I'm only 24, so I still think I rushed through it, but I'm glad that I kind of just took it easy and made myself kind of sane a little bit. And then we talked about the double peaking and everything like that. I'm glad I did that. And I think with the clubs thing, I learned that from my friend Shayla. She was always at every little club, and I took that home, and I was like, dang, and this is what I need to do, is just just learn as much as I can. I'm glad I went to a lot of seminars and I participated and showed up to Life Visions and everything. And I wish I could only do more. And that kind of goes into the wish I would have. And, Jesse Ventosa, I think he was telling me he went to like close to 100 seminars over this thing. I'm like, dang, if I had the seminar capacity of that guy, man, that guy, he's a legend with that. He's been to so many seminars. I wish I'd done more seminars, but I went to a bunch of them, and I'm glad I did. Yeah. I'm glad as much as I could.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I wrote down in quotes. I put free agent on my paper here because I think it's so true. Because you don't, and I do know a lot of people, which is great. Like you said, there's a time and a place, and I think that the people that got, I don't want to call it sucked in. That's a bad term.
Yeah.
But the people that got really interested and went all in one club I found they had previous experience, right, with that club or technique, and they were like, you know what, I'm going to do that. I love my doc back home or whoever adjusted me this way, and they knew, and then they're just off and running and trying to build the club to everything that it can be, which I think is amazing. Because without people like that, the clubs wouldn't exist, and so it goes full circle. But yeah, I also consider myself kind of a free agent and a floater. But I also think that there's some perks to that. There's a positive to that. And like you said open-mindedness, and it allowed you to see a lot of different techniques being applied and a lot of different things happening with the body. And I think for me personally, and you can speak on this too, but for me personally, it really showed that the body wants to heal, right? The body, we talk about that a lot in chiropractic, the body wants to function at its optimal level and, quote, normal, but we'll call it like neurologic normal, or that the normal for that individual, because everything's going to vary.
Mm-hmm.
But just, the fact that you can talk about your emotions and be, and walk out a totally different person, or you can, get adjusted in every restricted segment and walk out a better person, and your body, your brain to tissue connection is healed or recovered again, and that I think is super powerful. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a great way to experience that is to actually be a patient on these different techniques, like full blown. And I was actually fortunate enough to be a patient under network care, and then be a patient under upper cervical care. So I was able to really take in, and I think that's the best way.
Yeah.
And I think most people do the techniques they do because they like that done to them.
Right. Right.
It's amazing going through school and seeing how many people, at least my quarters, kind of were going away from full spine and into more gentler type techniques or upper cervical. And then like modified pisiform, that move is like hated on school's campus. Like everyone hates, like that's my favorite adjustment. It's like I love a CT junction adjustment, and I do that all day long in practice when it's needed, and people love it. So I'm like, I don't know what people at school, like who are adjusting them with modified pisiform, because I love that adjustment, and I think people do too. So just be a patient and really experience that for yourself. I think will guide you in the right direction too.
Absolutely. And I think you're going to attract a lot of, if you like that technique, you're going to start resonating with the same people who like that technique, especially out in the public. Have you been to a chiropractor before? Oh, yeah, they took out this instrument, and I didn't believe that it did anything to me. And you're like, oh, perfect. You're the perfect full spine patient. Like, like, let's talk about that. Or, like, but it's not like you're hating it, because you understand and you still use activator in your practice, or TRT in your practice, or instrument adjusting. But it's like you understand, you can relate to that person, right? Like, I think that especially on those more emotional and gentler techniques, I think what you said is so, so, so vital, that you are a patient, you experience that. So when a patient comes in and says, you know what, they sat me down, they started doing muscle testing and all this stuff, you can actually be like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. That's standard of care for that technique and that doctor and everything like that. And it doesn't sound hokey pokey to you, which I think is important.
And we get new patients all the time that come in that have been the chiropractors.
Right.
And they're like, like you said, they're describing a technique that wasn't working for them. Okay, we're going to do something different.
Exactly.
And then sometimes you get someone, they adjust me this way. And it's like, oh, that's what we kind of do. And I was like, did you like that? How'd that work out for you? Loved it. Just looking for a new chiropractor. I was like, all right, you're perfect now.
Perfect.
Let's do it. Knowing the different types of styles and everything like that is going to only benefit you in practice.
Absolutely. So is there anything else you want to share to close that last topic up? Like anything else you wish you would have done differently in your peak experience, or even in chiropractic school in general? Is there anything else you'd like to kind of share that you did differently? And then we'll get into closing statements here.
Yeah, well, some things that I really wish I did. I mentioned the seminars. I really wish I asked more questions in class. That was something I never asked questions. I learned that Erin Pratt was in my quarter, and she was the master at asking questions, and I looked up to her for that because I think she's just full of wisdom and everything like that. But just asking questions on every little detail, I think, is important. My first mission trip I went on with Dr. Suki to Mexico, first quarter, and Darren Murphy was there, and he was telling me, he's like, every single trip you can, take a mission trip. He goes, I've been on 7 already, and he was close to graduating or something like that. He goes, every single trip I have, I plan, or every break I have, I'm going on a mission trip. And I went on 2 more after that. I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have spent more of my breaks focused on either seminars, mission trips, or looking for places to practice instead of more relaxing. And think about it, 14 quarters, you only have so many breaks. And if you keep using them to just chill and relax, that's good, and you need that, but it goes by, all those breaks are going to end whether you like it or not. And I wish I would have explored some places to practice. I wish I would have been in more offices. So I think you can always do that on breaks. There's no excuse not to say, instead of going on a trip or hanging back in Marietta, I'm going to go out and explore some offices, explore some cities I might want to practice in, or do a mission trip. Dr. Peter Morgan does the Haiti trips. I've been on 2 of those, and those were phenomenal. I've learned so much about myself, about my skills, about what it is to actually serve and give. I think that's important too.
Yeah.
I wish it just adjusted more people too. You can never get your hands on more people, so different body types too. And not so much just with your friends. I wish I would gain more feedback too, instead of just laying them down and adjusting them. I wish I got more feedback on my actual skills too, instead of trying to impress people. And I think my favorite statement is like how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think that's really big. And I think just prepping yourself while as a student, you're as who you are as a student is who you are going to be as a doctor, no doubt. I remember I always have people kind of make fun of me for wearing a shirt and tie in the clinic. Like, oh, you got a presentation going on today? It's like, no, I got a patient in clinic. They're like, oh, really? Just one? I'm like, yeah, I want to be presentable. This is how I envision my practice. I'm going to dress up. I'm going to wear a shirt and tie. I think that's, whatever you want to do is cool. But for me, I was like, I want to be a professional. I want to be comfortable but professional, and I'm going to start that in clinic. Day one, every single patient I see, I'm going to have a shirt and tie on as if I'm going into practice. And it was no different putting on a tie in practice because I was so, used to it, doing it in school. So I think prepping yourself, what you do as a student, you're going to be doing as a doctor. If you're slacking off, if you're skipping the gym or whatever you're doing, if you're making excuses, procrastinating, nothing's going to change overnight when you get the pigskin, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got to be prepping now. One great thing I learned from Brittany Jordan, one of my role models, is the communicating. She is an awesome communicator too. And whether or not you're getting in front of people or getting out of your comfort zone, that's one thing. Not everybody has that opportunity, but everybody has the opportunity to sit down and record themselves.
Yeah.
And I was like asking her, what are your tips on how to be a better communicator? And she's like, you are your biggest critic when it comes to speaking. Videotape yourself. Just practice.
Love it.
5 minutes a day, doesn't even 1 minute a day, just talk to your camera, record yourself, and then listen to it. You're going to hate it. Do that as many times as you can until you no longer hate it. And I learned that from Brittany Jordan, and she's amazing. And you ever have the opportunity to hear her speak, she's phenomenal. And I think that's a great tool to use, is just sit down, open your camera, and just start talking to yourself and watch it. And nothing is worse than hearing yourself saying 1,000 times or whatever it might be, all your little tweaks. But just be a better communicator. There's tons of different tips like that. One last thing I really wish I wouldn't have done as a student was worry about just being so much of a perfectionist. And I really thought perfectionism was a weakness, but I think it's a full-blown issue. I really wish I wouldn't have cared so much about how well I did something. And, Dr. Lisa Rubin always told me, done is better than perfect. Just get it out there. And I look up to you, Johnny. You're getting this stuff done. You're having people on your show. You're having a podcast. If more people did that, and I was always, I'll do that. I'll get people in front of camera, but it has to be perfect. And you're just getting it out there. And that's the key, right?
Absolutely.
My buddy, Jake Barshaw from high school, big workout guy. He said, a shitty workout is better than no workout.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so true. I think you just got to get consistent, just get it out there, and don't worry about being so critical or so perfect about yourself. And I think that goes a long way too.
Absolutely. And I think that if you are happy with what you are putting out there, like you said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you are happy enough to say, you know what, I'm going to throw this out there, let's see how it does. Let it respond. The best part, and I'm going to talk about this, because the Chiropractic Compass podcast is going to kind of rebrand itself in the coming months here. So, but we're going to talk a lot more on marketing, self-marketing, and branding, getting your content out there, because if you don't do that, you'll never get what you mentioned earlier in the show was feedback. You'll never get feedback. You'll never be able to tweak it. And then when you do finally get that perfect thing out that you think is absolutely perfect, guess what? Nobody sees it. Nobody wants it. And nobody cares. Exactly. Because why? You haven't built their trust. They haven't seen your journey. They haven't seen your authenticity. Like, you probably hear my air conditioning in the background. I can't stop. I can. It would be 110 degrees here. It's 89 degrees outside in Atlanta. Like, I'm sorry, but you just can't stop that stuff. But I'm going to push it out there, and we're going to see what happens. And I think that you made some really, really great points as well, which makes me so stoked, if you can't tell, about what we're rebranding this whole entire podcast to, which is awesome. So, Doc, thank you so much. Number one, thank you for being on this show. Thank you for, representing Life University in a big, big way. You always are. If you're ever in town in Atlanta or in, back on campus, let me know and we'll hook up. We'll grab a pint together. And, but without further ado, do you have any closing remarks before I plug my shameless plug here?
No, I just want to share that, being 2 months out after graduation, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and nothing changes overnight except that you are a doctor, which is pretty freaking cool. And it comes with a lot of responsibility. I just hope you're prepared for that. And I think, you put in the work and it's all worth it in the end.
Absolutely. And I just started listening to a recent podcast called Entrepreneurs on Fire, as well as the Gary Vee show. If you don't listen to either of those podcasts, I highly recommend both of them. They're phenomenal. But they say, there's no overnight success. And like you said, nothing happens overnight. And it's true. Mm-hmm. An overnight success is 30 years prior of hard work and dedication, blood, sweat, and tears. And that is the absolute truth, because nobody, like Gary Vee's story was, nobody knew him for 1,000 episodes of his wine library. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, people were like, whoa, this guy's onto something. And now he's, a multimillionaire in New York, absolutely crushing it, and rooting for the Jets, unfortunately. But, but yeah, you're the second Michigan guy doctor I talked to in the past week, which is awesome. So I'm going to have to get up there for a little Bears-Lions game, because... oh,
that's right.
Being from Chicago, you know, we're going to take you guys down as per usual, but...
Oh, gosh. All right. We're talking NFC North rivalry now. We'll be up there, Ford Field. I want to see you there.
Yeah,
Lions come back.
That would be awesome.
I say it every year. Lions are going far, and they always disappoint, but who knows? Maybe this year, right?
Hey, we say the same thing about the Bears and the Cubs. It took us 100 years for one World Series, so we'll see how long it takes us for the second one. Cool. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Dr. Jack Goss, for everything that you do. Keep crushing it in practice, and we will be on this show later. I know him and I will break it down again, but maybe we'll dive into get away from the student mindset and dive more into these serious topics that are out there, because there's a lot of politics that surround chiropractic, and there's a lot of serious societal issues that, you know, Dr. Jack, I know, is very passionate about, as well as myself. And it would be really, really cool if we can get him back on the show. But without further ado, chiropractors out there, if you're looking to post a job advert, if you're looking to hire your next best associate, independent contractor, or you're looking to sell your chiropractic practice, whatever job advert you have or whatever chiropractic advertisement you have, allow us to host it on our site. Head to postachiropracticjob.com. Now that's postachiropracticjob.com to post your next chiropractic job advert or adverts with us, with the legendary chiropractor. Doc, thank you so much. You're amazing. You're an incredible guy. And you know what? Keep crushing it. And I told you were going to drop some nuggets and value bombs tonight. And you did. You did just that.
Awesome. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me invite myself on, really. And anyone out there, you can follow me at Dr. Yeah, Dr. Lumbar Jack on Instagram. You can find me there, or follow me on Facebook.
Here, let me type that in the bottom real quick. Give me a second so people can find you. Yeah, I totally forgot. Thank you for reminding me. It's at Lumbar Jack. It's very clever. Yeah. It's very chiropractic.
Dr. Lumbar, DR.
It's Lumbar Jack, correct, or Lumbar?
Yeah, Dr. Lumbar.
But it's Jack at the end too, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure it wasn't just Dr. Lumbar. All right, cool. So, yeah, it's down there at the bottom of the screen, Dr. Lumbar Jack on Instagram. He said he does most of his networking through DMs on there, and so reach out to him there. If you go to his profile, I believe you said your email and your phone number are there for people to access you. So please reach out to him. If you're a Life University student and you're looking to just bounce ideas, mastermind with someone, I highly recommend Dr. Jack Goss. I wouldn't have had him on the show if I didn't look up to him, and that's who I bring on. Everyone on the show I look up to, and I want you guys to have the same opportunity to do so. So thanks, Doc. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, and stay warm over there in Michigan.
Stay vital. Keep crushing it.
Love it, dude.